The average homeowner thinks mothballs are just a harmless, old-fashioned way to protect clothes from moths. But most people don't know that these innocent-looking white balls harbor a deadly secret. What if I told you that the familiar scent wafting from your closet is actually a toxic vapor classified as a possible human carcinogen by the EPA? Brace yourself, because once you learn about the hidden dangers lurking in those seemingly innocuous mothballs, your storage habits might need a serious overhaul. Let us start with a shocking revelation that will make your skin crawl. Studies show that children have died from acute poisoning after ingesting just one mothball. Yes, you heard that right. A single mothball can be lethal to a child. But it's not just ingestion that poses a threat. The vapors alone can cause blood poisoning in kids with certain genetic conditions, silently wreaking havoc on their little bodies. Now let's dive into the world of naphthalene mothballs, where traditional pest control is nothing like actual safety. These white spheres of destruction release a toxic vapor that has been classified as a possible human carcinogen by the Environmental Protection Agency. Yet, despite this alarming designation, these chemical time bombs are still allowed to sit in your bedroom closets, slowly sublimating and filling the air with their poisonous fumes. But wait, it gets worse. The hidden truth behind that familiar mothball smell is far more sinister than you could ever imagine. When you inhale that pungent odor, you're actually breathing in a probable carcinogen that destroys red blood cells, especially in children with G6PD enzyme deficiency. This isn't just a minor health concern. We're talking about a chemical that causes hemolytic anemia, a potentially life-threatening condition where red blood cells break down faster than they can be replaced. The shocking ingredient reality doesn't stop there. Naphthalene, the primary component in many mothballs, is known to cause cataracts, liver damage, and neurological problems. The EPA is well aware of these risks, yet they continue to allow this toxic substance to be sold for use in our homes, where our most vulnerable family members sleep and play. Former chemical manufacturing workers have come forward with horrifying tales of naphthalene production facilities routinely operating without proper ventilation, exposing employees to dangerous vapor levels daily. One quality control worker confessed that safety incident reports about employee poisoning were routinely filed away and ignored, painting a picture of an industry more concerned with profits than the health of its workers or consumers. The danger extends beyond the factory walls and into our very homes. Infants have developed life-threatening anemia from simply being in close proximity to clothes stored with mothballs. Imagine the horror of a parent realizing that their attempt to protect their child's clothing has instead put their baby's life at risk. Children are particularly susceptible to the toxic effects of mothballs due to their smaller size and developing bodies. Those with G6PD enzyme deficiency face an even greater threat, as their bodies are unable to protect against the oxidative stress caused by naphthalene exposure. This genetic condition, more common in certain ethnic groups, turns the seemingly harmless act of storing winter clothes into a potentially deadly gamble. The insidious nature of mothball poisoning lies in its ability to cause harm even without direct contact. The vapors released by these toxic pellets can permeate clothing, bedding, and even the air in your home, creating an invisible cloud of danger that you and your loved ones breathe in day after day. As we uncover the layers of deception surrounding mothballs, it becomes clear that the risks far outweigh any perceived benefits. The convenience of pest control pales in comparison to the potential for cancer, blood disorders, and other serious health issues. It is time to question why a product with such a dangerous profile is still allowed on store shelves, readily available for unsuspecting consumers to bring into their homes. Before you reach for that box of mothballs this season, consider the hidden cancer risks and blood-destroying chemicals that could be slowly infiltrating your living space. Your storage habits might need more than just a makeover. They might need a complete revolution. The deadly deception of harmless mothballs has gone on long enough. It's time to open our eyes, clear the air, and find safer alternatives to protect our clothes and, more importantly, our health. Next up, pedichlorobenzene mothballs, the so-called safer alternative that is about as safe as jumping out of a plane with a parachute made of tissue paper. Let's dive into the deceptive world of chemical marketing, where improved formula is just a fancy way of saying we found a new way to potentially harm you. Picture this: companies desperate to reduce fire hazards, decided to ditch naphthalene mothballs. Sounds great, right? Well, hold on to your hazmat suits, because they conveniently forgot to mention they were trading one carcinogen for another. That's right, folks, p-dichlorobenzene, the shiny new replacement, is also classified as a probable human carcinogen by health authorities. It's like swapping out your cigarettes for a vape pen and calling it a health revolution. But wait, there's more. This chemical chameleon doesn't just stop at potentially causing cancer. Oh no, it's an overachiever in the world of health hazards. Studies have shown that p-dichlorobenzene is linked to liver damage, neurotoxicity, and reproductive harm. It's like a greatest hits album of things you don't want happening to your body. And for those of you thinking, well, at least it keeps the moths away, prepare to be disappointed. Regular users of these safer mothballs report persistent headaches, mood changes, and respiratory irritation. It's as if the moths got together and decided to exact their revenge by turning us into walking, talking bundles of misery. Now, you might be wondering, surely the companies knew about these risks, right? Well, buckle up, because this is where it gets really interesting. A former manufacturing supervisor, let's call him Whistleblower Wally, spilled the beans on some internal safety tests. Turns out, these tests showed concerning health effects that would make any reasonable person run for the hills. But did the companies sound the alarm? Of course not. Instead, their marketing departments went into overdrive, pushing this safer choice narrative faster than you can say class action lawsuit. It's a classic case of corporate sleight of hand. While they were busy patting themselves on the back for reducing fire hazards, they were simultaneously introducing a whole new set of health risks. It's like fixing a leaky roof by setting the house on fire. Sure, you don't have to worry about the leak anymore, but you've got bigger problems now. But don't just take my word for it. Let's talk about the Smith family, not their real name, but their story is all too real. For years, they struggled with mysterious health issues, chronic fatigue, headaches that would make a jackhammer seem soothing, and a general feeling of bleh. Doctors were stumped, tests came back inconclusive, and the Smiths were at their wits' end. Then, in a moment of desperation or inspiration, they decided to do a deep clean of their home. Lo and behold, as soon as they removed the mothballs from their closets and storage spaces, their health issues vanished faster than a politician's promises after Election Day. This isn't just one isolated incident, either. Countless families have reported similar experiences, their health improving dramatically once they ditched the dichlorobenzene. It's like these little balls of chemical chaos were playing a twisted game of hide and seek with people's well-being. So, what's the takeaway from this chemical caper? Well, for starters, maybe it's time we stop trying to solve our moth problems with carcinogens. I know, revolutionary concept, right? But more importantly, it's a stark reminder that just because something is marketed as safer doesn't mean it's actually safe. The next time you're tempted to reach for those mothballs, remember the hidden truth behind this chemical shuffle. Ask yourself, is protecting your sweaters really worth risking your health? Because let's face it, a moth-eaten cardigan is still better than a body riddled with the effects of toxic chemicals. In the end, this modern solution to moth control is about as modern as using leeches for medical treatment. It's high time we mothballed these dangerous alternatives and sought out truly safe options. After all, the only thing that should be dying in your closet is your fashion sense from 10 years ago, not your liver cells. So, let's bid farewell to p-dichlorobenzene mothballs and their deceptive marketing. Here's to hoping the next safer alternative actually lives up to its name, or at least doesn't come with a side of cancer risk. Until then, maybe we should all just embrace the occasional moth hole as a fashion statement. It's certainly better than embracing a chemical that's more toxic than a Twitter argument. Now let's dive into the sublimation process that's poisoning your indoor air, where those seemingly harmless mothballs become an invisible toxic cloud throughout your home. What you might not realize is that these pest-repelling products are constantly releasing dangerous vapors, even when you're not actively using them. Industry insiders have revealed that mothball fumes escape even supposedly sealed containers, infiltrating entire rooms through microscopic gaps you can't even see. Here's what the manufacturers don't want you to know. Sublimation means you rebreathing in insecticide vapors every single day, not just when you open that storage chest or closet. This isn't occasional exposure, it's a constant assault on your respiratory system. The toxic particles are so small they easily spread through your entire living space, carried by air currents and your home's ventilation system. The health effects of this continuous exposure are alarming. Toxicologists couldn't ignore the mounting evidence, showing that even brief contact with mothball vapors causes a range of disturbing symptoms. People have reported experiencing nausea, dizziness, and even discolored urine, a sign that the chemicals are actually destroying their blood cells. But it doesn't stop there. The respiratory irritation from these fumes can trigger severe asthma attacks, turning your home into a minefield for anyone with breathing issues. What's truly shocking is how the industry has tried to downplay these risks. One brave employee confessed that factory air quality tests regularly exceeded safety limits during mothball production, but operations continued anyway. This blatant disregard for worker and consumer safety is appalling. If the air is unsafe in a factory setting, imagine the cumulative effects in your sealed home environment where these vapors have nowhere to escape. Real customer stories paint an even more disturbing picture. Families have reported developing mysterious illness symptoms that left medical professionals baffled, until they finally traced the cause back to mothball exposure. In one heartbreaking case, a mother rushed her toddler to the emergency room with hemolytic anemia, a dangerous condition where red blood cells are destroyed faster than the body can replace them. The culprit? Toxic mothball vapors that had been silently accumulating in their home. This isn't just about protecting your sweaters from moths anymore. We're talking about stealth poisoning through your own ventilation system. Every breath you take in your mothball-protected home could be laced with these insidious chemicals. The sublimation process ensures a constant supply of toxins is released into your living space, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Think about all the places these vapors can reach. Your bedroom where you spend a third of your life, your children's playroom, even your kitchen where food is prepared. The microscopic gaps that allow these fumes to escape their containers also allow them to penetrate nearly every surface in your home. Fabrics, furniture, and even food can absorb these toxic particles, creating secondary sources of exposure. The long-term effects of this constant, low-level poisoning are still not fully understood, but the short-term symptoms are alarming enough. Beyond the immediate discomfort of nausea and dizziness, the potential for serious respiratory issues and blood disorders should make anyone think twice about using these products. It's time to question whether the perceived benefits of mothballs are worth the very real health risks they pose. Are a few moth-free sweaters really worth compromising the air quality of your entire home? Is protecting your stored items more important than protecting your family's health? The sublimation process that makes mothballs effective at repelling pests is the very same process that makes them a silent threat to your well-being. Every time you smell that distinct mothball odor, remember that it's not just an unpleasant scent. It is a warning sign that you're inhaling toxic chemicals. That's not pest protection. That's a dangerous gamble with your health and the health of your loved ones. Let us get serious about what international health authorities discovered were approved for household use in America means something very different elsewhere. The European Union took decisive action in 2008, banning naphthalene mothballs entirely after concluding the cancer risks were simply too high for consumer products. This wasn't an isolated decision. China followed suit, prohibiting these potentially dangerous items completely from their market. But the regulatory differences don't stop there. Multiple countries have gone a step further, restricting dichlorobenzene products to professional pest control use only. These nations recognize the potential hazards these chemicals pose to the average consumer and have taken steps to limit exposure. What's truly alarming is what internal chemical company documents have revealed. Executives were well aware of the neurotoxicity and liver damage risks associated with these products decades ago. Yet, they made a calculated decision based on the assumption that American regulatory agencies would move too slowly to impact their profits. This blatant disregard for public health in favor of financial gain is a stark example of corporate negligence. The Environmental Protection Agency's own toxicology reviews identify both naphthalene and dichlorobenzene as probable carcinogens. Despite this damning classification, American families can still readily purchase these products at any local hardware store. The disconnect between scientific evidence and regulatory action in the United States is both puzzling and concerning. Adding another layer to this troubling situation, A former regulatory compliance officer came forward with shocking testimony. They revealed that dangerous product batches that failed internal safety tests weren't destroyed or properly disposed of. Instead, these potentially harmful items were quietly relabeled and distributed to discount retailers. This practice not only circumvents safety protocols, but also disproportionately exposes lower-income consumers to greater health risks. The slow pace of regulatory agencies in the United States has created an environment where corporate interests can often outweigh public health concerns. While other nations have taken swift and decisive action to protect their citizens, American consumers remain vulnerable to products that have been deemed too dangerous for use elsewhere. This regulatory failure enables a cycle of corporate negligence that puts profits before people. The ability of companies to continue selling products with known health risks, simply because they can exploit the sluggish nature of American regulatory processes, is a clear indication that the system is not working as it should. The contrast between international regulatory action and American corporate practices is stark. While the European Union and China have outright bans on naphthalene mothballs, and other countries strictly limit the use of dichlorobenzene, the United States lags behind in protecting its citizens from these potential carcinogens. This situation raises serious questions about the effectiveness of consumer protection measures in America. How can products that are considered too dangerous for household use in other developed nations still be freely available on American shelves? The answer lies in a complex web of corporate influence, regulatory shortcomings, and a system that often prioritizes economic interests over public health. The testimony from the former compliance officer paints a particularly troubling picture. The practice of relabeling and redistributing failed safety batches is not just a violation of ethical standards. It's a direct threat to consumer safety. This kind of corporate behavior erodes public trust and highlights the urgent need for stronger oversight and accountability in the chemical industry. As we consider these facts, it becomes clear that the current regulatory framework in the United States is inadequate to protect consumers from potentially harmful products. The slow response to scientific evidence, coupled with the ability of corporations to exploit regulatory loopholes, creates a dangerous environment for American families. The international community has shown that it is possible to take decisive action in the face of scientific evidence. The European Union's ban on naphthalene mothballs and China's prohibition demonstrate that when the will to protect public health exists, swift and effective measures can be implemented. It's time for American regulatory agencies to catch up with their international counterparts. The health and safety of millions of consumers hang in the balance. Until significant changes are made, American families will continue to be exposed to chemicals that other nations have deemed too risky for household use. This isn't just about mothballs or pest control products. It's about a systemic failure to prioritize public health over corporate interests. It's about the need for a regulatory system that moves quickly and decisively in response to scientific evidence. It's about ensuring that approved for household use means the same thing in America as it does in countries with more stringent safety standards. That's not consumer protection. That's regulatory failure enabling corporate negligence. And it's time for a change. Next up, the hidden truth about mothball manufacturing and its devastating impact on workers and families. You won't believe the corners cut to keep those white balls cheap and profitable. Ex-factory employees reveal a shocking disregard for safety that puts lives at risk every day. Workers routinely handle highly toxic chemicals like naphthalene and dichlorobenzene without proper protective gear. They breathe in poisonous dust and vapors for entire shifts, slowly destroying their health. One former line worker described constant eye irritation and difficulty breathing, saying management dismissed her concerns as unrelated health issues. Another recalled persistent headaches and dizziness that worsened over months on the job. The toll on employees' bodies is severe and wide-ranging. Respiratory problems become chronic, with many developing asthma or emphysema-like symptoms. Liver damage is common, as toxic chemicals build up faster than overworked organs can process them. Perhaps most disturbing are the neurological effects. Workers report memory loss, confusion, and tremors that linger long after leaving the toxic environment. You'd think robust safety protocols would be in place for such dangerous work. Think again. Internal reports obtained by whistleblowers show that spill cleanup procedures are routinely ignored to maintain relentless production quotas. Workers describe mopping up chemical spills with ordinary rags, no protective gear in sight. One employee was ordered to continue working next to a leaking vat of naphthalene for hours, told that stopping production wasn't an option. Even more alarming, a quality control inspector revealed that batches exceeding toxicity limits aren't discarded. They simply diluted to barely scrape by regulations. Your family could be exposed to mothballs containing dangerously high chemical concentrations, all to save the company a few dollars. When workers raise safety concerns, they're directed to HR departments more focused on avoiding lawsuits than addressing real dangers. The damage doesn't stop at the factory gates. Let's examine how your quest for pest-free closets creates a toxic legacy for the next generation. Children's developing bodies are especially vulnerable to mothball chemicals. Their small size means even low-level exposure can have outsized effects. Studies show chronic mothball exposure in the home leads to serious neurological issues in kids. Learning disabilities become more common as developing brains struggle against a constant chemical assault. Anemia rates skyrocket, with young bodies unable to produce healthy blood cells. Perhaps most chilling is the dramatically increased cancer risk that follows these children into adulthood. The hidden truth about this chronic low-level poisoning? The damage often outlasts the mothball scent lingering in your sweaters. Children's nervous systems and blood chemistry may never fully recover, setting them up for a lifetime of health struggles. Families using mothballs show significantly higher rates of cataracts, liver disease, and respiratory issues across all age groups. But there's hope. Numerous case studies show remarkable turnarounds when families eliminate mothballs from their homes. Children's academic performance improves as fog lifts from developing minds. Mysterious health complaints resolve, from chronic headaches to unexplained fatigue. One mother described it as like a switch flipped. Her lethargic, struggling child transformed into an energetic, engaged learner within months of mothball removal. The choice is clear. Is the convenience of mothball pest control worth gambling with your family's health for generations to come? The hidden costs go far beyond the price tag on that innocuous-looking box. Workers suffer, children struggle, and the cycle of harm continues. Also, your sweaters smell vaguely of chemicals instead of moths. Finally, let's consider the long-term environmental impact that outlasts even the generational health effects. Mothball chemicals persist in soil and groundwater, creating toxic hotspots that harm wildlife and contaminate drinking water sources. The true cost of your pest control convenience may be paid by entire ecosystems for decades to come. Is it really worth it? The next time you reach for that box of mothballs, remember the hidden truths lurking behind that familiar scent. Your family's health and our planet's future may depend on making a different choice.